Let's get started. Okay, hello everyone. So my name is Abbas Ali, and I'm the host for Laravel Nagpur. Laravel Nagpur is a community which has mixed of people. We have people from Nagpur city as well as from other cities as well. Primary reason being that apart from conducting local in-person meetups, we also do online meetups wherein anyone from around India as well as around the world can join. So we have people across from in our community. We have people coming in across from various cities of India. And today we have Pushpak with us, who will be speaking on Franken PHP. Pushpak is a software engineer, and he has over 3 years of experience in web application development using Laravel and other technologies. He has contributed to projects at early stage startups like TaxWiser, Better, and Eastern Enterprise. He is currently working at Clear Glass Analytics. And Pushpak also recently, just last month at Laracon India Hackathon, he has won the second prize in the hackathon contest. So very good, Pushpak. Congratulations on that. And without any further ado, I'll now hand it over to Pushpak. Pushpak, please take it over.
Thanks, Abbas. Thanks for this introduction. Uh,
Sorry, I forgot one thing, just one thing, sorry, Pushpak. Everyone, please stay on till the last, till the end, because we'll be having PHP Storm license giveaway contest at the last. Thank you.
Perfect. Uh, Without wasting time, I will start my talk. And thanks for the introduction, Abbas. Let me share my screen, and I hope everyone can see my screen. Yeah. Uh,
Yes, we can see your screen.
so today, when Abbas reached out to me, like asking me if I can give talk on this meetup, right? I had one topic in always in mind was Franken PHP because recently only I was exploring about this Franken PHP in a bit, and I found it very interesting that uh, this is kind of a next version of PHP. Has a potential to be a next version of PHP because it offers so much features and functionality which normal PHP lacks. So so today we're gonna talk about Franken PHP. This is like recently released tool in this new PHP ecosystem. Uh, I think if I'm not wrong, I think in December only they released the first version 1.0. So yeah, so every time I learn any new technologies, right, I ask myself three important questions like why do we need to learn this new technology? What exactly is this new technology solving, and how exactly we're gonna learn it? So let's answer all three questions in today's talk. So why do we need to learn this new tool, Franken PHP? So to answer this question, we have to understand what is the current state of PHP right now at the moment. Uh, so I hope so. Currently, if you see how many ways you can deploy the PHP web applications on the internet, right? There are very limited ways you can do it. So one is the shared hosting way. You can put it on a HostGator, Hostinger, or any of the shared hosting way. You can just move the files from your by FTP or SFTP to the server, and the that shared hosting will start serving your web application, PHP web app. The second way of hosting your web application is a standalone VPC where like you have own a complete server. You can either do it on-premise server or either you can host your server on the different cloud providers. So this is a second way of deploying the PHP web apps. And the third way of deploying PHP web app is the serverless hosting. So if you have used Laravel Vapor, right? Behind the scene, it's used the AWS Lambda. So that's also one way of example of serverless hosting. And there are again another platform as well called AWS Fargate. Then there is a Brave PHP, which also by which you can actually host a PHP web application serverlessly. So you don't have to worry about the server. You can just give the code to that service, and that service will take care of running your PHP web application. So these are the three mainly ways you can host your PHP web application. And if you are using any of this three application, if you are using any of these three ways, right, you might have heard about the term called PHP FPM. So even if you don't have heard about PHP FPM, if you have anyway deployed the PHP application on the web, you are using PHP FPM because it's the only one solution available at the market by which you can actually host your PHP application on the production layer. So how exactly does PHP FPM works? So when any browser send HTTP request to your web server, web server by default can be Nginx, Apache. Most of the time it's Nginx. Most of the time people use Nginx. Some of the companies use Apache as well based on their requirement. So web server is can be Nginx, Apache, or there are other server as well. So your browser send HTTP request to your web server, then web server can't actually execute the PHP, right? Web server can only serve the static files or the HTML. So behind the scene, the PHP needs to be executed. So how exactly the PHP get executed? It uses PHP FPM. So PHP FPM is nothing but a improved version of a PHP, like a optimized version of a PHP where you can control how many threads of PHP you want to run on a single machine, how many processes you can run of PHP on a single machine. So how you can actually handle the traffic on your server. So web server again can like PHP cannot handle HTTP request by default, right? Like you cannot send HTTP server directly to your PHP application, right? Uh, you need in between a web server. Like even if you start with PHP Artisan Serve, right? It uses the PHP development server to handle that HTTP request. So first HTTP request is coming to this web server that can be either PHP local server, Nginx, Apache. Then that server actually transfer that HTTP request into this fast CGI request. So fast CGI is nothing but a very old and consistent solid protocol, which is used to talk between two different servers. So our web server actually talks with PHP using this fast CGI protocol. Then fast CGI request actually pass to the PHP FPM, and then PHP FPM execute that using the PHP code what you have written. Then whatever the response or whatever the result is there after your whatever the code you have written, it has again convert back to the fast CGI response, which is sent back to the your web server, and again the web server translate back that fast CGI response to the HTTP response and send it back to the browser. And that's how exactly the PHP FPM works. In this request, right? Currently, you see that there is this web server is a redundant thing, right? Even though we need to talk with PHP FPM, we need to add this additional web server to talk with our PHP FPM. Again, there are ways in which old version of Apache where you can directly execute PHP in the web server itself using some plugin. So there were mode PHP plugin in Apache, very old version of Apache, which doesn't support newer version of PHP also. So in that case, you was able to use you was able to execute PHP on the web server itself. So you don't need to like even have the PHP FPM itself. But now that library is very old. We cannot use that library anymore because it doesn't support PHP's newest version. So we have discussed about this about PHP. Now discuss something about PHP. So if you see PHP as a general language, right? PHP is a very performant language. As you can say, like in the interpreted language thing, it can benchmark wise, it come top on of the Python and Perl. So PHP has this one architectural thing where it works on a fire and forget model. Most of the interpreted language works on this kind of principle because they are not the code has not been compiled into the memory always. So what is a fire and forget model? So what exactly happens is every time browser send request to the your web server send that request to PHP FPM, PHP FPM start one new single process of PHP, it execute that PHP request, and then it kill that process. It does not keep that entire thing into the memory. So everything get destroyed when that request is handled. So whatever the resource has been used to create the different classes, different objects, completely get destroyed when everything has been handled. So this is the thing with the PHP. So it has advantages as well as disadvantages as well. Like when you write a unperformant code, it can work in your wonders because you don't need to worry about the performance, because anyway, it's after every request, it's gonna get completely destroyed. So even if you write unperformant code, it can work. And that is not the case with the compiled languages. So this is the current state of the PHP. Let's talk about now what we have discussed based on the PHP FPM and PHP FPM. So PHP FPM has a couple of drawbacks. So the first drawback you might have understood is like PHP cannot run long running applications. So why I'm saying this, right? Because the more long running application you will start running on the PHP server, the more there will be load on the PHP, and the more less requests it can handle according to your scale. So that's why you cannot actually run long running applications such as any HTTP server, WebSocket server. So yeah, exactly. You cannot write the WebSocket server, all this server side event servers into the PHP FPM. There is one more reason you can write us, because there is no access to the network layer. There is very limited access to the network layer by the PHP it offers. So you cannot play with a lot of things to customize as per your requirement. And the main thing is you cannot use the modern HTTP features because HTTP is a ever evolving protocol. And the newest version, the this HTTP 1, 2, 3, right? They offers much more functionality in terms of different optimization, speed optimization. So if you want to use this new features or this optimization which new HTTP protocol offers, right? You can't use this with old PHP FPM. So for example, there is one thing called 103 early hint support. You cannot actually build that with a PHP FPM because PHP cannot keep the connection like alive uh, for that entire until that request is served. So that's why we understood the problem that there are so many drawbacks of using PHP FPM. So now we will discuss the solution. So what exactly we can do to solve these problems, right? And where comes this new tools which has been released in last couple of years? There are tools like OpenSul. There are tools like Roadrunner, React PHP, and Laravel Octane. So all these tools handles all these tools actually solve the problem of one way or another. So, for example, if you have heard about Laravel Octane, right? Laravel Octane actually solves the problem of fire and forget model, where it keeps your Laravel application into memory and only execute the business code on every subsequent request. So you can actually save that if you are serving billions of requests or millions of requests also per day. You can actually save that framework boot up time per request by using Laravel Octane. Then there is project called React PHP by which you can actually access the network layer thing. You can actually also write asynchronous event-driven PHP, and because of that, you can actually then create a WebSocket server using PHP. So this Laravel Reverb, right? It has been created on top of React PHP. Behind the scene, it uses React PHP to handle all this long-running servers things and HTTP things behind the scenes. And there is servers called Roadrunner and OpenSul. I will say this, they are like kind of alternative to Franken PHP, but as every technology has its own pros and cons and it has own architecture, right? Roadrunner handles the different request its own way. OpenSul handles the request its own way, and Franken PHP handles the request in a different way. So there are like different of implementation between these tools. And yeah, so today we're gonna mostly discussing about what exactly Franken PHP offers. So the what I have seen till this issues, right? The Franken PHP is the one tool which actually comes to solve the most of the problem which we discussed in the previous slides about the long running things, about the fire and forget model. So let's look at the features it offers as a library. So if your application is written in the newly PHP 8.2, you can actually use Franken PHP for your new projects, or even if you are on PHP 8.2 or 8.3, you can use this. So it removes the dependency of the web server from that entire architecture which I show. So now your browser can directly actually talk with PHP, FP, like PHP service basically. Uh, so you don't need to handle the different permissions, uh, like you don't need to actually deploy two service at your app. You are basically your architecture. So you don't need to deploy the web server as well, PHP, FPM separately, then managing the connection with each other. So you don't need to do that because now everything can be combined into one single thing, and that actually Franken PHP offers. So easy deploy. Franken PHP comes as a Docker image. So if you are using any cloud platform, you can easily deploy your application by just creating an image on top of it. Or other thing is other very game changing feature of Franken PHP, I will say is you can actually execute or create a self executive binary. Uh, so that binary you can actually give it to anyone, and even if they don't have PHP version, even if they don't have anything working, the entire thing will work on their machine without any issues. Even you don't need to give the code separately. You just need to compile your entire code into that static binary, and you just need to ship it to the production server or anyone into your team, and it will work same as it was. Then there is a worker mode where it actually boot your application once and keep it in memory. It's same as Laravel Octane. You can actually use the Franken PHP as a backend in the Laravel Octane. Then, as I mentioned, 103 early hidden support. So this newest feature of HTTP protocols are also supported. Then there is a real-time event SSE server also provided out of the box in the Franken PHP. All this compression are provided by default. Then there are very good logging structure. Like you can configure logging the way you want it. I know like going through the Nginx log is a pain. You can it's there is a flexibility of using Franken PHP. You can actually structure your logs in a much better way. Then there is a Prometheus tracing and built-in Prometheus support. By default, HTTP2 and HTTP3 requests are supported in your Franken PHP server. And I think again the coolest feature of the Franken PHP is it supports the HTTPS automation out of the box. So you just need to mention that domain which you need to run application on, and it will create a self-side server from the Let's Encrypt. It will renew it. It will do everything. You don't need to worry about the SSL certificate. So if you are deploying the currently using the PHP FPM or manually on the cloud, you need to generate that Let's Encrypt SSL certificate every time you deploy the app on the new server, right? You don't need to do it on the Franken page, but it will automatically do it for you. You just need to mention the domain, or you just can configure the configuration file, and it will take care of it. And graceful reload, like if you have a static binary, right, you can just switch it with the new version of that binary, and your app can be handled without any downtime. So these are all the features actually provided by the Franken PHP. So now after all this discussing, right, our entire architecture, our browser can actually send the HTTP request to the Franken PHP, and Franken PHP can actually execute that request. And you don't need that middle web server to handle this request. So now how exactly do Franken PHP do these things? So we're going to discuss that. So the most important thing about the Franken PHP is it uses the CADI HTTP server behind the scenes. So CADI is nothing but a modern HTTP server written in Go. It's not as performant as Nginx, but the functionality it offers in terms of the functionalities, for example, different types of automatic HTTP support, all different types of plugins it provides, right? You can see how many functionality it offers. You can see the complete list of features here. You can actually use it for the reverse proxy. You can use it for HTTP server. But what Franken PHP has decided is to not write the HTTP server itself. Either use the previous available server from the ecosystem and use that to execute the PHP. So CADI has this one feature called as a extension. Basically, you can extend that HTTP server by writing the Go code. So what author of Franken PHP has done is they have written an extension on the caddy server called Franken PHP, which is able to execute PHP on the web server itself. So they use this C library called libphp, and using that libphp, your PHP code is executed on the Go by Go language. And as you know, Go is like a very performant language, so it's able to do a lot of things there. And then your Go, that entire code is executed and send it back again to the browser. So that entire thing of handling, say, accepting the fast CGI request is completely eliminated. So I think we have discussed most of the things about the Franken PHP. So that's it. We're gonna discuss. No, I'm gonna show you how exactly is the it's gonna work. I'm gonna do it the live coding way, and hopefully everything works. So let me just share my complete screen. And I hope everyone can able to see my screen. So I'm gonna show you how easy is it to host or swap out the normal application with this Franken PHP. So this is currently I have like taken a Laravel 11 version with the basic Laravel shell setup. As you can see, it's nothing has been changed, nothing has been added. I have just downloaded the Laravel shell setup only with the one service, and I'm using the SQLite database for now. So as you can do, right, I will just go and start the server and I will show you how exactly it works. So it started the server. Oh, my bad. So as you can see, it's nothing but just a normal Laravel application, Laravel 11 application using PHP 8.3 served by the Laravel shell itself. So I will show you now how exactly you can use the Franken PHP. So to use the Franken PHP, you don't need to do any code changes or nothing or sort. There is no composer dependency. Only thing you need to do is there is one. I'm just following the documentation here. You can just go to the Laravel integration on the docs. You can download the binary corresponding to your system. So I have downloaded Mac Mac binary. You just need to put it on your root folder, and you need to create this caddy file. That's it with this configuration. And then you can just, if I just stop this, Franken PHP run. So currently, if you see, there is no SSL certificate and everything. If I refresh it, and I just need to change the local host because we have configured that the domain is localhost. So now what you see, the app is actually served by the Franken PHP. There is already the connection is secured, local host is there. You haven't done any setup for that. Everything is configured by default. And it's using the same version, PHP 8.3.6, Laravel 11. Even did you even if you don't mention what version of PHP you are executing, right? Only thing it's important is this binary file and this caddy file. That's it, and that's easy to go into Franken PHP. So yeah, that's it. There are these two. I have shown you these two ways only. There are a couple of ways actually you can use Franken PHP. So currently, if you see, it's actually using the 443 port instead of 80 port. I will just close this server. And I also mentioned you that there is a Laravel Octane support for also this Franken PHP backend. So how exactly that works, right? Again, I haven't done anything. I have just go to Laravel Octane documentation, and the first thing you can see is the Franken PHP server. I just followed this thing. That's very simple. You just start the sales server. then you just require the Laravel Octane and you just mention that I need a Octane installed with the server Franken PHP. Then you come to the docker compose.yaml file. I just quickly shift to Franken Laravel sail the Octane backend. So again, it's the same as Laravel sail. Only thing which I have changed is added this 2 extra port because we need to work with a secure 443 port SSL port. And this is for the HTTP3. Only added this 3 extra additional line to your Laravel sail configuration. And that's it. If I do Laravel sail, sail up. As you can see, the server has started on localhost 443. Let me refresh it. Now you see the connection is not private and why it's happening. So I need to, first you need to understand why exactly this is happening, right? I will just go to localhost unsafe. Because currently you are running application inside the Docker, right? And the Franken PHP is actually generating the certificate based on that machine, right? So in order to make those certificate works on your local machine, you need to get this certificate on your local machine as well, because they are signed by that machine itself, that server itself. So if you are executing that here out of that server, it will not work. So there is very hard, there are few files you just need to move on and share with your old or your local machine to make this work. But as you can see, certificate is just not valid. It has generated the certificate. Only thing is it's not able to make sure that it's valid or not because it hasn't been generated by the local system. It has been generated by that Linux machine inside that Docker. But you can see the caddy has generated the certificate. So only thing it's not able to verify if it's correct or not. So there are certain steps involved in order to, if you need to make this SSL certificate work. I will share the link of that blog into my Twitter. So if you want to know more, just follow me on Twitter and I will share the link of a couple of resources about Franken PHP there. And you can see now our Laravel sail plus Laravel Octane using the Franken PHP worker mode. It's very performant thing. It's not reloading the Laravel application behind the scene. It's everything is happening without doing a lot of changes. So that's about it. I will just close it. And there's one more way you can actually execute the Franken PHP. So currently, as you can see, I will just go to that. So currently, if you see, currently we are using the Laravel sail runtime of 8.3. And that's why it's using Ubuntu behind the scenes. So that's why we have to mention all this many things. But if I just change to the Franken PHP Octane, and if I go to the Docker compose.yaml file, it's using this Docker file to build the application, and it's just mentioning the entry point that is PHP Artisan Octane Franken PHP. It's just the one command you need to pass so that it will start this Octane Franken PHP inside this Douglas Franken PHP. This Douglas Franken PHP image is nothing but the same PHP, same as a Franken PHP binary. The binary has been compiled into this. You can just mention whatever the extension you need to install. You just mention that I need Xdebug, I need all this extension, and it will work. You don't need to manually install those as well. You just copy your root version with the dash app and then just start with this command. You can again free to edit this command. We are mentioning that start this on a local host with HTTPS redirect port should be 443 and admin port should be 2019. And that's it. If I start this again, now if you see, again it asks me because the certificate has been renewed. It's currently using Franken PHP and Laravel Octane. Franken PHP is actually serving the Laravel Octane and not the Laravel sail. So that's how exactly you can actually execute it. Again, the way you can find the documentation here itself, you don't need to go. There is mentioned documentation on the Laravel opt-in website. How exactly you can use the, instead of Laravel shell, you can use the Franken PHP Docker image. And I have just followed that, and it's as easy. You don't need to change any dependency and anything. You just change this Docker file, and everything will work out of the box. So that's about it. I had one more feature which I needed to show to you guys, but there was some issues which was coming at my local machine when I was trying to generate it for the demo. So there is one main feature of the Franken PHP is about building the self-executable files, which is about creating the standalone self-executable PHP apps. And I think this is one of the best feature Franken PHP offers. So to create a Linux binary, what you can do is you can just create a new static build called Docker file in the repository of your prepared app. Just add this one, build the static app using this command, and then just run this command. Then you will get one file called my app. And this is a very powerful file, right? You can, what has happened behind the scene is it has compressed the PHP, it has gathered the PHP, your code, your composer dependency, everything it requires to run the application, and actually created a binary out of that, a Go binary, which you can directly shift to anyone else into your team, or you can serve it in the production itself. So there is couple of things you can do. Like they have mentioned what exactly you need to do to, if you are deploying this in production, right? You don't need a development dependency. You don't need a environment dot local environment variables. So you don't need a taste folder, and you even don't need the dump PNV of the dev dependency. So you can actually reduce the size of that entire binary application by lot, and then again you can add a compression on top of it, and it works. Like I have tried it myself. It works out of the box perfectly without any issues, and it's, I think, the most important feature of this Franken PHP. Uh, eh, so yeah, that's there. But again, I mentioned this. You can use this application for your hobby projects. You can use this Franken PHP for your hobby projects and all the other projects which you are working. I will still suggest to wait for some time because there are still known issues which are happening, uh, which hasn't been solved yet in the current versions of the Franken PHP. For example, the fibers you cannot actually call the echo method. Certain PHP extensions are still not supported. Then there is a couple of methods which you can, if you are not using, then it's free. Like you can go ahead, but if you are using this method, you still need to wait for a couple of hacky things to sort it out. And yes, so if you are using Franken PHP with the Docker, like this by default 127.0.0.1 doesn't work, even though it resolved as a local host. So yeah, there are certain things you need to keep consider before seriously considering Franken PHP. But if you consider me, I have run the benchmarks across the Roadrunner, OpenStool, and Franken PHP, and I think the Franken PHP is the fastest backend for the Laravel Octane. So you can keep eye on this project. For the meantime, you can shift one, like you can start the migration of your small apps if or your side projects as well to this project and see what exactly it offers in terms of the scalability, in terms of the features. Also, as I mentioned, right, there are lots of things you can do with the caddy, right? If you are using multi-tenant application, if you need to start different server for different clients, you can do all sort of things with the caddy. So caddy is also one thing you need to look into it more detail. And I think that's it. So yeah, I think that's the end of my talk. Uh, my name is Pushpak, and you can find me on Twitter by this username called Pushpak1300, or also you can find me on the GitHub by this username Pushpak1300. I'm currently working at this company called Clearglass Analytics. It's a fintech based out of UK and India, and we are handling 500 plus billion assets under management of data. So whoever says PHP is not performant, I think they can see, and it's working for us brilliantly. We uses Laravel and Vue alongside with the other technologies, and currently there are no openings, but you can keep an eye on our careers page. There will be openings in the future. So yeah, that's it. That's it's for my talk. And if you guys have any question, you can just ask me. I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Pushpa. Thanks a lot. That was great. So before we move forward, I have posted a message in the chat window. Everyone who wants to get into the PHP license storm, PHP Storm license giveaway contest, please fill in that form. The link has been posted in the chat window. And if anyone has any questions for Pushpak, now is the time to ask, please. Punepal is asking Pushpak, is Clear
Yes,
Glass from Kunal Verma?
yes, he's a founder and CTO at ClearGlass. Yeah.
Okay. If anyone else has any questions, please, you can ask now. We'll just wait for a minute or two, and then we will get to the PHP Storm license giveaway.
Yeah, even if you want to ask me question on my Twitter, you can just feel free to follow me or ask me there, uh, or LinkedIn as well if you want.
I have a question for you, Pushpak. It's actually not a question, but can you walk us through that caddy configuration file? What is it about? What were the different lines there, and what each
Sure.
of those configuration section mean? Yeah, this thing.
So if you see, this is like a global version of it's simple syntax language. It's not as complex as the Nginx config file.
Yeah.
So it's just mentioning that we need to use the extension called Franken PHP.
Mhm.
Uh, it's a way to say the caddy that it's a PHP server and it's what exactly we need to use. Then there is a again in the Nginx config there is a section called domain section, right? Every time you deploy the
Mhm.
Nginx data, it's same as that domain section. So currently it's set as localhost, but if you are posting it for production, so there will be like something like example.com. Then what exactly it's a root of that. Currently whatever the root is, you need to put it that into a public file. Then you need to like just enable this compressions. Again, this is an optional line. You can just emit it as well. It will work behind the scene, but the compression will offer uh, more compressed data, so your speed will be higher and more requests it can handle. And execute the PHP files from the public directory and serve assets. So how exactly it needs to handle the how exactly it needs to like which command or it needs to call. So Franken PHP actually export this command called a PHP server. So you need to just execute this PHP server command on this root directory which we have exposed, and that's it. That's exactly it's this caddy file is mentioning. So if I go here, if I stop this, so this Franken PHP binary is nothing but the caddy itself, the caddy CLI itself, but
Mhm.
additional extension built on top of additional extension. So you see there is two command which has been added by the Franken PHP. One is a PHP CLI and PHP server. So it's not it's telling that entire caddy server that after Franken PHP I just need to execute this PHP server command, which spin ups the production ready PHP server. So
Okay.
if I run Franken PHP server, I need to mention domain here. It should work. Uh, so so I need to put it in that in a public folder. So it's nothing but just
Mhm.
caddy file is the additional way to tell the configuration that root is instead of local, it's public, and you
Yeah.
need to serve that public instead of the local one. So if I go to public
Okay.
and it should work.
No, you need to change the domain name in the configuration file.
Uh, that's also one thing. But I need to move this Franken PHP into public. Let's try without domain localhost first. Should work.
And how to keep this program running? I mean, should we use supervisor like we use for Laravel workers, or does it also come with a daemon service so that it
No,
keeps
no.
running?
I think for daemon service, you need to use supervisor D or something like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
Nginx come with by default daemon service. Caddy
Yeah.
has its own daemon as well. Like it's a long running
Mhm.
application, but every
Yeah.
time if you want to restart this, you need to mention to that daemon that I need to restart this entire Franken PHP always.
Okay. Okay.
I'm able
Anyone
to.
else have any question? Now is the time. I'll just wait for 10 to 15 seconds more, and then we will get on with the PHP Storm license giveaway.
I'm not sure why it's not working. Is it I'm on? Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong directory. Hopefully, it should work. Yeah. So this is how you can also one way to execute like run the Franken PHP without having caddy file. Even if I delete the caddy file now, it will work.
Okay.
So even if I delete this, only thing is you need this executable.
Yeah.
If I stop it and it's working.
Yeah.
So if I change something,
So basically, you're passing all the configuration options to the command line itself rather than using a configuration file.
yes, yep.
Oh.
So most of the default option will be taken care. And that
Mhm.
caddy file is doing nothing but just running this Franken PHP server behind the scene. And one good feature of caddy file is basically the configuration is very good and you can actually control it by the API itself. So if you have worked with Nginx, right, the config syntax is very much bad. You have to understand what exactly happening. But with the caddy file, it's very easy. And now you can see it's without even caddy file also it's working.
Yeah.
You don't need to mention any PHP version, any Laravel. By default, it will take care of all this.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so let's get on with the PHP Storm license giveaway now. I'll quickly share my screen. Everyone can see my screen. So we have 14 people who have shown interest in this contest. So I'll quickly copy their names. And then I have this Wheel of Fortune. I'll paste their names. So our wheel is ready. Now I'll run the wheel and best of luck to everyone. Here we go. Great. Divesh, congratulations. You're there, Divesh? Can you please unmute yourself and speak?
Hi. Your mic is off. Hello.
Your voice is echoing. No issues, Divesh. Congratulations on winning. Just send me an email or hit me on Twitter and I will send you your PHP Storm license. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, then I think that's it for tonight. Thank you everyone for joining Laravel Nagpur meetup, and I hope to see you. I hope to see you all again next month with a new speaker, new topic, and another PHP Storm license giveaway contest. Thank you, Pushpak. Thanks a lot. It was great
Thanks.
learning something new in PHP land. Thanks for sharing your learnings of Franken PHP with us.
Thanks. Thanks, guys. You have been wonderful audience.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Pushpak. Thank you, Abbas.
Thank you. Bye-bye.